The Dark Lord Darth Vader and the Masked Man Obito Uchiha. Powerful and feared, they threatened to bring in a new age under a new order. In Vader's case, it was a solid success for a while, and I mean they are actually quite similar characters. Raised from young into a society that makes children into soldiers, an evil man takes advantage of their love for a girl and that girl's death to corrupt them, leading them to reject their original identity and cover their faces, before they are ultimately unmasked and redeemed by the protagonist. To be honest though, similarities aside, I just saw this fight being discussed, and since these are both two of my favorite characters, I kinda wanted to join in. So let's get into it. Who would win in a fight? Growing up as a young ninja in the village of Konoha, Obito was a bit of a loser. That was until he awakened the powerful Sharingan, an ocular power unique to his clan that gave him enhanced reflexes, great visual acuity, and the ability to read people's movements. This also gives him the ability to create powerful genjutsu, or illusions. This eventually became strong enough to basically be mind control, which he used on Yaguda, someone who should have been immune or at least resistant to it. Unfortunately for Obito, however, this debatably would not work here, since genjutsu works by manipulating a person's chakra flow and Darth Vader doesn't have chakra. You know, because he's from a completely different universe. Regardless, Obito later awakens the Mangekyo Sharingan, an upgrade of his Sharingan that came with an ability known as Kamui, a power that connects his eye to another dimension. He can both travel around by teleporting himself into and out of that dimension, as well as seemingly turning his body intangible by putting certain parts of his body in that dimension, making all physical attacks pass right through him. He can also store things in that dimension and use them as needed, as well as shooting out the stockpile of giant weapons he has. Being a ninja, he also has access to powerful ninjutsu, although he definitely favors the fire variety. This generally shows itself in massive blasts of fire, but he can also create a barrier of it. For a lot of his power, we can use how he scales to the Eight Tails, a giant beast whose tentacles were able to clear this massive area without taking any damage from the maneuver, and the blades he shoots out easily cut through them, as well as his fiery barrier both defending against and burning him. During his recovery period after his injury, he was also given the cells of Hashirama, a man hailed as the god of shinobi. This gave him enough vitality to at least heal small wounds as well as survive otherwise fatal attacks, like getting his heart destroyed. To be fair though, he probably would have eventually died, it just wasn't an insta-kill. He also gains the ability to use wood release, which he uses in a variety of ways to tear people apart. Overall, Obito has a wide array of abilities that make him a major threat to most that get in his way. Darth Vader is no slouch himself though, his greatest and by far most iconic weapon being his lightsaber, a powerful plasma sword that he is very well trained in. It's hard to say exactly how hot a lightsaber is, as I don't think we have a canon official number, but it's hot enough to cut through almost anything in the Star Wars universe. Even just going by our real-life standards, things like steel would require thousands of degrees to melt through. And Naruto characters are kind of lacking when it comes to heat resistance feats. You can definitely give it to the really high tiers, but it's implied that when everyone was transported to Kaguya's lava dimension, Kakashi, Sakura, and Obito would have either been seriously injured or even died if they fell in. And we have no reason to believe this is any different than naturally occurring lava, which can go up to a couple thousand degrees Fahrenheit. My point is that if Vader lands a solid hit on Obito with his lightsaber, then that hit is doing some real damage. And Vader is quite well trained when it comes to lightsaber combat. He generally employs Form 5, known for its good defenses and aggressive counterattacks. And that aggression has never been more apparent than in Vader's hands. This is on top of his cybernetic enhancements and the Force bolstering his physical abilities. And that isn't the limit of the Force, just on a basic level it grants him much greater perception, guiding his blade throughout combat. He can also sense incoming danger and the emotions and possibly even intentions of an attacker. With their incredible perception, wielders of the Force can react to things like blaster fire, which can be very fast depending on the source. There are a ton of statements in the Legends continuity that explicitly have them near or at light speed, and while their canonicity has always been lesser than the movie, movies, especially since the Disney acquisition, the official Star Wars databank does call the blast of these weapons light-based energy, which Vader does react to. Although if you really don't like using legends as a source, then there's still multiple powerful characters in Star Wars like Yoda and Mace Windu that react to Force lightning. And while there isn't any great evidence that Vader and characters like him can physically move that fast, the Force grants them insane reaction speeds. Vader is also very skilled at what the Force is most well known for, telekinesis, which can be used both offensively and defensively. Whenever he needs an upper hand, throwing whatever big objects are around seems to do the trick, as well as a good old Force push to throw an enemy off their game. He's also incredibly precise. He was also able to use it to perform complex engineering on his own suit. Although his most famous application is the Force choke, you know, where he chokes people with the Force. He's really good at it too, even using it on someone who wasn't in the same place as him through a screen. And if a good snap of the neck doesn't do the trick, there's always the option of internal attacks, like when he ripped out the eye of this giant squid. Now with all of this and more at his disposal, how does he stack up against Obito in sheer power? Obito is able to damage the powerful Biju of his universe, but he isn't as powerful as them. Otherwise, he wouldn't be flaunting their strength like the great weapons he used them as, with their strongest attack, the Biju bomb, creating explosions that eclipsed mountains. So he's not mountain level, but he isn't astronomically far off. One of Vader's more impressive feats is surviving this massive explosion in Star Wars Rebels, which he gets away from with a limp. Either he's just built to tank that, or what I think is more likely, he used the Force to defend or shield himself. And if that's the case, then that should also apply to his general output. Another notable feat of Vader's is when he and some Inquisitors hold off these massive building-high waves with a Force barrier. And while he couldn't stop the waves from coming down, he did survive it. That had to be thousands of tons of water, and he held it back enough to not crush him. There's also a matter of speed. We have a solid idea of the speeds Vader can react to, but is it enough to stop Obito? Let me put it like this. There's a move in Naruto called the Chidori, a cutting attack renowned for how fast it is. Kakashi once used it to cut a lightning bolt. This would require the attack to be relative to or faster than the speed of lightning. Later, we have a stronger version of Kakashi using it on Obito, and Obito, without any further enhancement to his speed, matches the movement exactly with his own attack. Plus, he let himself get hit in this scene. This implies that Obito is at least lightning speed, arguably several times that. Depending on how you scale Vader, he may or may not be able to react to that, but I personally think he's at least not getting blitzed completely. So how would the fight actually go? Well, Darth Vader isn't physically fast enough to give chase, so his options are waiting for Obito to get close and countering or attacking with the Force. There's also the option of those classic Jedi mind tricks, but Obito has shrugged off mind control before. Obito, meanwhile, has a few options. He usually starts with the same strategy. If someone doesn't know about his intangibility, he uses that to get close, phase through any attack, then suck them into his dimension where they can starve to death for all he cares. It's a solid strategy and usually works, but it's not perfect. Obito has to turn tangible to attack or teleport, and Vader's sensory abilities are insane. Obito loves to do different feints and tricks, making people think he's going for the finish. But Vader's perception is so good that the Force seems to tell him even when people are lying to him. Vader would probably know when Obito is actually trying to attack, making it hard to find an opening. And this is where Obito's other eye comes in, the Rinnegan, an incredibly powerful eye with a varied host of abilities, controlling attractive and repulsive forces, mechanizing his body, soul-sucking, chakra absorption, a bunch of giant animal summons, and summoning the King of Hell to rejuvenate his body. That's not to mention his control over the giant Geto Mazo. All insane abilities that could definitely overwhelm Vader in tandem, but they all have a rather high stamina cost. I highly doubt he can just spam them. That being said, any ability that requires physical touch is going to be just as difficult to land on Vader as Kamui, so soul-sucking is out. Vader has also controlled animals in the past, so there's the possibility he takes those summons for himself. That's debatable though. And while Obito is probably more powerful, Vader can probably offset the push and pull of the Deva Path power with his own force abilities. None of this is to say that Vader has an easy win. Even if he can deal with most of these abilities, he would have a lot of trouble dealing with all of them at the same time, and because of that, Obito probably gets a win out of this. There's also Izanagi, which is an ability Obito can use to give himself a second life if he's about to die, but that also requires losing his Sharingan in exchange, which is a major loss in this fight since that's what lets him go intangible. But Vader isn't helpless. It's just that Obito overall has a better arsenal and better stats. Or maybe you disagree. Honestly, this is a super complicated fight. I have a headache right now from writing this, and I'm sure there's some crazy stuff Darth Vader has done that I just don't know about. Star Wars is a massive franchise full of stuff I will probably never read or watch in my life. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm really curious to see what others have to say. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe, or become a member like these great folks right here. But in the meantime, take care and have a good one.